And I finally decided, man, Psalm 63 has to be it because it's been lately so powerful for me. In fact, our church staff, we went on a retreat in April, I believe, and we spent a good morning just walking through each one of these verses and talking about it. And it was really convicting and inspiring, and so I wanted to talk about that this morning. So let's turn Psalm 63. And I'm just going to read, it's 11 verses. I'll read it, and then we're going to take it and start breaking it down just verse by verse. So Psalm 63, verse 1. O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water. So I have looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory. Because your steadfast love is better than life, my lips will praise you. So I will bless you as long as I live. In your name I will lift up my hands. My soul will be satisfied as with fat and rich food, and my mouth will praise you with joyful lips. When I remember you upon my bed and meditate on you in the watches of the night, for you have been my help, and in the shadow of your wings I will sing for joy. My soul clings to you. Your right hand upholds me. But those who seek to destroy my life shall go down to the depths of the earth. They shall be given over to the power of the sword. They shall be a portion for the jackals. But the king shall rejoice in God. All who swear by him shall exult, for the mouths of liars will be stopped. Man, do you catch it? David is talking from this deep place of this driving passion and motivation to know his God. Not a God, not the God, but his God. I don't know how big you are into personality tests. Early in our marriage, Terry and I figured out that it was really helpful to kind of figure out who she is and for her to understand who I am. We were struggling bad, and then this couple came along and said, hey, you know what, we might do a little marriage counseling with you guys. And we said, oh, well, yeah, we probably need it. And one of the first things they did is a personality test, and we stepped back and went, oh, and like I'm expecting that you're going to see things the same way that I do, and you're expecting that from me, and we are radically different people. And I kind of like you being different. And it just took a little while for us to get our mind around that. And so I've always kept up with personality tests, and the last couple years, actually some folks in this room have brought the Enneagram up, which you may have seen some of it. And it's been really helpful in kind of a different way, because at the heart of it, it's talking about what is that deep motivation? What is that thing that drives you? And what is that fear that you have down in there that makes you do the things that you do, that you're trying to, and I think there's a deeper level of understanding who I am and these things that from my past and my makeup that drive me to do the things that I do. And then I read this and I look at David, and it seems like there's this even stronger drive, even above his fear or against his fear, and it's making him do the things that he does, and the way that he views life. Look at it. He says, "Oh God, you are my God." He says, "God, you are very personal to me." And there's something about when you move something from something that you just say, "Hey, I see that and I believe that it's true," to the point that you look at it and you say, "I own this." To say there is a God and I believe that, and to say he is my God, are two very different things. And you may remember when that became true for you, or maybe it hasn't become true for you yet, that there is a God, but you haven't made it really personal. But there's a radical difference. I am not licensed in any way, but I do cut hair. I cut my own hair, and that's pretty easy, obviously. I've been doing that for a while. And I did at one point have a little bit longer on top, and I learned how to look in the mirror with and kind of figure out how to fade it up where it was a good smooth fade. And so when I got in college, guys would come to the dorm room, and I know this is probably crazy illegal, but I would cut everybody's hair, and I got really good at doing the fade. And like if they wanted lines or things like that, I could do some stuff, man. I got to where I was pretty good at it, or at least worth the $2 they paid me, right? And so then when we started having boys, it was a no-brainer. Like, we weren't going to go to a barber because I could just cut their hair. Now, Jack, the other day when we first started cutting his hair, he was like, "No, Daddy, I don't want hair like yours," because he thought if I cut it, that was the only thing I could do. And it took me a little bit to convince him. "No, Jack, I promise. Look at your brothers. I didn't shave their head. I can do this and make it look good." I still don't think he's bought in every time I bring it up. Like, he needs a haircut now, and I start to get the clippers out, he's kind of like, "I don't know, Dad." But I got pretty good at cutting it, but there'll be these times, inevitably, that I'm gone or the clippers are broken or something happens, and one of the boys goes to a barber. And while that barber has skills that I don't have and training that I don't have, and while that barber has tools that I don't have and can do some things that I can't do, it's always funny to me because the boys will come home and there'll be something off. There'll be like a hair that just got missed. You wouldn't catch it, but there's a hair that's off. You see, as their daddy, I kind of own that, and like I'm real meticulous about it, and I look over it 20 times and make sure everything's perfect and the fade is just right and it's the same on all sides, and because I own it. They're my children, and I don't want them to go to school and get made fun of, right? I don't want them to have one stray hair sticking out the side, and so I just take a greater level of interest than just your normal barber who cut 40 hairs that day. 40 heads that day they don't take the same interest because they don't own it. David says here, "God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as a dry and weary land where there is no water." And I'll take some water as I say that. I don't know that we have any idea what it looks like to be thirsty. There may have been some time in your life where you were without water for days on end, and you know what it means to come to the end of yourself. A couple years ago now, I told a story about my worst time with that, where I went on a hike, and I had Caleb with me, and I was carrying him on my back, and I'm chronically dehydrated, and so I really found out that day that I kind of came to the end of myself, and if a buddy hadn't thrown me an Nalgene of water that day, it felt like I was going to be in a bad place. And I was talking about this while I was on this trip, and one of the guys said, "Man, I know what you're talking about." And he told a story that was so much worse than mine. He was a guy from Arkansas, and he was at a trail not far from here. And he said, "I started out, and I just had a little bit of water, but I brought the filter and everything so that when I got to a creek, I could just filter the water and have some drinking water. Problem was, I didn't see a creek. I didn't see a stream. Nothing. I get to the place that I'm going to camp. It gets dark. I camp without water. I get up the next day, and he said, "I know I'm in trouble, and I'm lurking, and I'm moving fast because I got to get to water, and I can't find it, and I can't find it, and I can't find it." And he said, "Mark, I was in pain. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And when I finally saw a little stream, I ran over as quick as I could and just dove out face first and just started drinking, not worried about whether it was filtered or if I'd get sick or not. I had to have water." David knows what this is like. He's been in those places. And when he says, "My soul thirsts for you, God. I am desperate for you. I need you so bad." And the only words I can use to describe it is what it feels like to be totally without water and your body start to shut down. That's how desperate I am for you, God. So, he says, "I have looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory." The way that he's going to fill this tank, this emptiness and this desperate need, is he's going to find a place where he can look and behold and think deeply about and connect with his God. And that connection with God fills him up. That empty place, that brokenness, that deep need, the way that he fills it up is to connect with his God and to think deeply, to beholding him, his power and his glory. He says, "Because your steadfast love is better than life, my lips will praise you." Your steadfast love is better than life. When I say life for you, what all does that encompass? I think for David, he's saying whatever you want to put on this side of the scales, whatever people find life and joy in, whatever they do with their time, whatever those things are that you might say, hey, this is life, whether it's relationships, whether it's activities, whether it's whatever you want to say, this constitutes my life, my time, my energy, my money, my life. And then you put my God on this side, he says, your love, your steadfast love is better than all of that added together. To me, I want this worse than that. You know, as I started to look through this, I can't think of anything other. David sounds like an addict. Really. I mean, he can't hardly stand it. He wants to be with his God so bad, and he's realized, he's tasted and seen how incredible he is, and everything else pales in comparison, and he sounds like an addict. I want you this bad. I would give up everything for you. It's like I'm dying of thirst and I need you. It's like I'm hungry and I'm starving and I need you. It's you're on the scale, and your weight and your glory puts everything else to shame. So he says, verse 4, I will bless you as long as I live. In your name I will lift up my hands. Now, lifting up your hands, you know, I don't know how much you've been around different places. There, sometimes in here on a Sunday, there'll be some folks, me sometimes, that we raise our hands. The first time I was around that in a church, I really didn't know what to do with it. Like, why are people putting their hands up in the air? What happened? We're not asking any questions. Why everybody raising their hands? And then I started to feel like, man, there's this part of me that I want to raise my hands, but what does that even mean? Like, am I reaching up to try to touch God? Like, I'm singing to him, I'm trying to get as close to him as I can be. And then finally I realized, and I know this can be different for a lot of us, but for me, I finally realized what that meant is I'm putting my hands in the air as surrender. You know, you got me. I'm done. I got nothing. I give up. And I'm giving myself over to you. And as I sing these words, that's what I'm doing. I surrender. And, I've never been in a spot where I had to put my hands in the air. Somebody was trying to come after me, but I have played paintball. And we played last December with a bunch of guys that were really good. And I found out, I already kind of knew it because it had happened the last times I tried to play paintball, but this time it happened really bad that I'm just not good at it, y'all. What I do is the aggressive part of me just wants to come out, guns blazing, pop, 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 pop. And in my mind, that's going to end well. Like, I'm going to like pop, 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 and do the thing. And what always happens is bop, bop, and people don't stop either. Like, they shoot you once, and then they just decide, all right, now we're just going to unload on him. So he just, And so the guy that's doing the paintball thing, he says, put your gun in the air and surrender, and that way everybody will know not to shoot you. Now, do people not shoot you when you got your hands in the air? They're not supposed to, and the nice people don't. But then those guys, those shysters that like to clean house, they just start to unload on you. But I surrender. I'm done. I've been shot. I'm out of the game. I got nothing. I surrender. David says, I lift my hands to you. I will bless you as long as I live, as many days as you give me. This is the way that I'm going to live my life, with my hands up in surrender to you, because I've tasted and seen how incredible you are. My soul, verse 5, will be satisfied as with fat and rich food, and my mouth will praise you with joyful lips. My soul will be satisfied with fat and rich food. Now, this is just happened for me, so I can speak of it from current experience. I love Indian food, and it is really, really heavy. The gravies that are full of ghee and butter and all the stuff. And there was one day on this trip, I also like Thai food in India because they just do those curries so well, but they're so heavy. And it just ended up one day that it was one curry after another curry. There was this dal makhani that you can have that's just, it's so thick. It's like the thickest fettuccine Alfredo you've ever had. It's just full and rich. And I don't normally eat things like that, but when I'm in India, I do, because the spices are so incredible, and it's got just enough heat, and it's just so awesome. And I just can't stop the third or fourth helping. I'm like, this isn't good, but I'm not going to get to eat this back home, so I might as well make the most of it while I got a little bit. So I always come back like 10 pounds heavier. Most people go to a place like that and lose weight. I go and gain weight. And there was one day that it was like meal after meal after meal, heavy, heavy, heavy. And I finished that day fat and happy. Y'all know when y'all eat that home soul food, and it's just thick and greasy, and Like, yeah, I went to bed that night. I didn't have any trouble sleeping. I nodded right off, and I just had a smile on my face. This is just good. David says that's what it feels like. That's how good you are. When I spend time with you, when I get to know you, God, when we're together, it fills me up like fatty, rich soul food, Like I just had a bunch of fried chicken, and I feel full. And he says, full of joy. That's one of the things that reoccurs in this passage and really reoccurs in the Psalms is this joy. David's like, man, I'm an addict. When I'm with you, it fills me up with joy. And my mouth will praise you with joyful lips, not just happy lips. He's in a crazy, tough circumstance all through the Psalms. That's what you got. You got somebody that's in a bad spot, and they're like, no, but I still have joy in the midst of this because that's how incredible you are. He says, when I remember you on my bed and meditate on you through the watches of the night. I had a friend one time that told me that you could tell what you were really about by two things. One, what you would do without getting paid for it. Like you just do that because you enjoy it so much and you're so much a part of it that you would do it without even getting paid. And then the other thing is what would keep you up all night talking about it. And whoever you're with would just have to say, hey man, shut up and go to bed. Like it's late. But you're still wanting to talk because you've got so much passion for it. David says, I meditate on you and think about you through the watches of the night. What keeps you up late at night thinking? I'm jet lagging pretty bad right now, and I've been waking up in the middle of the night. And what keeps me awake, what prevents me from going back to sleep, I start spinning on something that I'm worried about, something that I'm afraid of. David says, I'm awake at night thinking about how incredible my God is, and it fills my heart with joy. And I don't want to go to sleep because there's joy in my heart because I'm connecting with you and meditating on you through the watches of the night. That means the late night, the early morning hours. It's beautiful. Verse 7, you have been my help. And in the shadow of your wings, I will sing for joy. Here we go again. I will sing for joy in the shadow of your wings. And in just recent kind of walking through these Psalms, this is another reoccurring theme, this word picture, under the shadow of his wings. Now think about that for a second. Under the shadow of his wings, that safe place in his care. Doesn't mean that right outside of that ring, in fact, it probably means even more that right outside that wing, that it's craziness. But David says, but I'm safe right next to you. We were doing that Sabbath series. I told you guys we took the twins to the zoo in Tulsa. And one of the things that happened, normally those animals are all like, so frustrating. You go to the zoo and, you want to see the tiger, but the tiger's not there. You want to see the grizzly, but the grizzly's gone somewhere else. The only things you see are the squirrels. You're like, I could have seen this back home. Well, this day, for whatever reason, I don't know if they all shot them full of a bunch of, I don't know, they all drank Cokes that morning or something, but the animals were fired up and running around. And we went to the tiger, and there was this massive tiger, and there was this glass, and all the kids, my kids, are standing next to this glass, and here's this huge tiger, and he's just pacing back and forth, kind of, mauling at the window, licking it, his teeth are just all, and I'm like, man. I mean, Jack's like up with his nose on the glass, and the tiger's licking the glass on the other side. I mean, there's that tiger's that far from his face. And there was a little bit of hesitancy in me, but I'm like, well, that glass is tough. Surely they didn't put into. But it was like it's right there, that crazy big tiger. And it feels like part of this joy that David has is, man, the storm is raging and the tiger's there, but he's under the shadow of his God. Not a God, not the God, but his God's wing. And it's good. And he has joy. Then he says, my soul clings to you. Your right hand upholds me. My soul clings to you. What time in your life do you remember clinging to something? I tried to take up whitewater for a while, whitewater kayaking. I wasn't very good at it and almost died several times, so I finally figured out, man, I probably just need to let this thing go. But the main reason it was like that is because the guy that was trying to teach me, he just said, oh, you'll be all right. You know, it'd be something really big, and I'd be like, man, I think this is dangerous. And he's like, oh, you're tough. You'll be all right. Well, one day he takes me to this river, and there had been a lot of rain. And when we got there, I could see the water like out of the banks into the trees. And I said, you know, at that point I had read enough to know that this was already a dangerous river, and now it was up. And he said, oh, it'll be fine. He said, just watch out for that first curve because there's a keeper. So if you don't know much about how rivers work, so if sometimes the water will pile up and it's strong, the current's so strong that the water is just doing this, and if you get caught in that in a whitewater kayak, it'll just hold you. It'll just keep you. And so he said, make sure you paddle away from that. Well, I went first, boop, 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 right into the keeper, you know. So here I am, and it's just spinning me, you know. It's just spinning me, and I'm going under the water and out of the water, under the water, out of the water, under the water, right up next to this rock. And I'm like, man, this is like I don't know, And finally, I grab a hold of the rock, and I just cling to it, and I'm still in the boat because I'm afraid to get out of the boat because I'm afraid I'll go under and keep me. So I'm just like holding on to the rock, and I'm clinging for all of my life. And luckily, about the time that I'm about to lose my grip, this guy had gotten out of his boat and gone up to shore and came over the rock and stuck his hand down and pulled me out. But I was holding on to that rock for dear life because I thought I was done. And it feels like that's what David's saying here. My soul clings to you. Your right hand, that's the thing that upholds me. I got no hope unless I hold on tight, death grip to you. When I was about 10, I went to spend the night at a friend's house, and the next morning we got up, and his mama made chocolate gravy. Anybody had chocolate gravy? If you haven't had chocolate gravy, I apologize, and we need to correct this for you, because what happened to me is she made chocolate gravy, and one bite, I went, what? I got out a piece of paper and a pen, and I said, ma'am, would you please write down all of the directions of how you make this? And then I got home, and no joke, I walked in, and on the counter, I slammed it in front of my mom, and I said, Mama, why hadn't this been happening? This stuff is incredible, man. I've been missing out all this time. I had tasted and seen that this chocolate gravy is incredible, and now I want it. In fact, I may want it every morning. Like that's how good this stuff is, you know? This picture that David says of this desperation and this, the first time we kind of worked through it, and when I worked with it through it with the staff, it was very convicting. Like, man, he's saying some things here that I don't know that I can say from my heart. But this morning, y'all, I don't feel this as much as a rebuke as an invitation. This is the kind of relationship that God wants to have with you. This is the result of it. It's better than life. It's more satisfying than fatty foods. It's more fulfilling than when you're dying of thirst and you get a drink. He wants to protect you under the shadow of his wing and fill you up with joy. That's what he wants with you. You. So we're going to take a few minutes here. We've actually planned ahead to have one extra song here at the end so that we can take maybe an extra moment and really do what he said. Behold his power and his glory and how much he loves you. His steadfast love is better than life. So take a second and think deeply about it. You know, as always, we've got communion that you could take in the back and places that you could pray back there. There's folks that would like to pray with you about it, what it looks like for you in these next few minutes. And then here in a few weeks, we've got this shirt. We're starting a series where we're going to study Acts called We Will. And that's how we're going to launch the fall. And what that's going to look at is how we do this unified, how individually we connect with him, we're devoted to him, and then as one unit, then we come together, and he wants to do incredible things in us and through us. But step one is he wants to take a lot of people who are individually devoted and connected to him. And then when you put those people together and unified, there's no telling what he can do. So why don't you take a few minutes, and whatever it looks like for you, make the most of these next 3 songs, all right? Let me pray. Father, I love you, and I know that your love is better than life. I know that that's true. And I also know that I get distracted in looking at a lot of the things in my life, and I just give them way too much attention. I give them way too much of my heart. I let the fears overwhelm me. I let my joy get left behind as I let things grow up and be bigger in my life than my devotion to you. And I'm asking you this morning that you would revive in me, remind me how incredible you are. And Father, that this moment, that this week, that these things that David said in this psalm would start to be things that I could say. In the shadow of your wings, I could sing for joy. To your glory, amen.